welcome to the Tyler Werner Show, right here in the YouTube channel, /Facebook page, as always, the podcast, on this June 9th edition. As we're about, we're 3 games into the NBA Finals. Of course, the Cleveland Cavaliers coming off of winning, a much-needed win in Game 3, a desperate win in Game 3. Oh, and by the way, last week on the Tyler Werner Show, did I forget that we have an NHL Stanley Cup Finals playoff series also going on as well? Did I forget to mention that last week on the No, but anyhow, I mean, I was so wrapped up in the beginning of the NBA Finals, amongst other things going on in the sports world, that I totally overlooked. It just didn't even really think to mention about the Stanley Cup Finals, which I believe will be wrapped up in Game 5 on Thursday night, 8 o'clock p.m. That's pretty much that. I mean, in a nutshell. I mean, you had some competitive games certainly throughout the series, but the Penguins, with the backup goaltender, I mean, yeah, I think the Penguins have the Sharks right where they want them, and I think they're going to put them away Game 5 and, pretty much put a wrap on the 2015-16 NHL season. And there you go, another Stanley Cup to the Pittsburgh Penguins franchise. Well, with the Flyers, it's been 40 years and counting. Thank you very much. But anyhow, so that's that. I don't know if, again, it's just been, as far as the NHL playoffs have gone, I don't know, it's kind of, I don't know, winding down for me. I mean, ever since the Penguins eliminated the Capitals, I really, I feel like the NHL playoffs in general kind of, for me, at least lost steam after that. And from there out, I mean, I just figured most likely the Penguins, even though the Penguins had their backs against the wall, against the Lightning, the Penguins got it done. And I don't know, to me it looks like the Sharks aren't quite a match for the Penguins in a 7-game series. So that's that in a nutshell. We do have a little bit of Eagles talk for the Tyler Werner Show today, coming up shortly. But of course, we lost obviously a boxing legend this past week, amongst, the past week or so, amongst other deaths. I mean, a Flyers legend, Rick McLeish was, passed away last week as well. And not to mention Kimbo Slice at the young age of 42. Also passed away this week as well. But obviously, Muhammad Ali this past weekend on life support. And, the end was near, battling with a respiratory infection. And certainly, without the most legendary boxer in boxing history. I mean, if you go Mount Rushmore, he's obviously Muhammad Ali. He's the greatest boxer of all time. Does anybody, make a case against that?
I agree.
That's to say the least. And, obviously condolences out to the Muhammad Ali family and friends. And certainly, he will be missed. And, I mean, we could do a whole, and the documentaries and the replays of the fights are certainly in heavy circulation right now on ESPN and sports channels and in general and yada yada. So, rest in peace, Muhammad Ali. I wanted to, like I said, the NBA Finals were, I guess, rescued to some extent after the Cleveland Cavaliers stumbled out of the gate in this one. And were just, just looking like no match for the Golden State Warriors, especially in Game 2 when they got destroyed. They got their doors blown off. And in Game 1, when Steph Curry didn't even have to have a huge game. Just going to show you the depth of this Golden State Warriors team. How they just have so many guys that can contribute aside from Steph Curry, that it just went to show in that Game 1, the Cavaliers were over, and then Game 2, I mean, again, just a complete blowout. Cleveland not even scoring 80 points in that game. But in Game 3, a desperate Cleveland Cavaliers team, this time at home, 120-90. LeBron James, ladies and gentlemen, playing 40 minutes and, scoring 32 points, 11 rebounds. Tristan Thompson had 13 rebounds. I mean, they were getting it done. That's for sure. I don't know who watched the game, but I mean, even you just go on like NBAvideo.com. There's when a play is dead, there's like a foul called on one play, and Steph Curry goes to, even though the play is dead, he goes up to, I guess put in a layup. This was at the end of the third quarter, and even though there's the plays, LeBron just blocks it anyways. No, this ain't happening. This ain't happening. And that's, I don't know, just a little bit, I don't know, maybe symbolic of this game, but it's still an uphill battle for the Cleveland Cavaliers. They got the next game at home as well. We'll see. I have a feeling that the Golden State Warriors, and you see it even in the NHL sometimes, Game 3. It's hard to go up in a finals 3-0. And I think here maybe, it's one of those games where the leading team, I don't know, maybe takes their foot off the gas pedal a little bit, however you want to, maybe saves up a little bit for the rest of the series. A little pit stop, if you will, however you want to word it. And I think that's what the case was here. I mean, a 30-point win for the Cavaliers. It was their night, and we'll see what happens Game 4. But I still, again, this might be where Golden State comes back hard the next game to take the 3-1 lead, and whether they finish it 4-1, I don't know. Maybe Cleveland, desperate, wins Game 5, and then Golden State maybe takes it in 6. We'll see. But fortunately, what was looking like a series that was quickly, going down the tubes for the Cavaliers, that again, I was hyped up about last week on the Tyler Werner Show, that many people have been hyped up, that are breaking some ratings records for NBA ratings. I mean, the series was rescued a little bit by the Cleveland Cavaliers tonight, showing a little bit of promise at least. And we'll see. We'll continue to look closely at this series. Is it, I mean, it's the NBA Finals, and it's, again, it was the dream NBA Final for me that fortunately came together when Golden State was down 3-1 to Oklahoma City, and miraculously makes it to the NBA Finals and puts together this incredible series. At least before it began. See how the rest of it plays out. But who knows? At this time next week, we may have a new NBA. We may have the new NBA champions, the Golden State Warriors. We'll see. We got, just had, so Friday we got Game 4, and then Monday Game 5, which, Golden State could wrap it up then, I don't know. Game 6, if necessary, would be on Thursday, and then Game 7, if necessary. So you got, for the most part, you got 3 days between games here, and so it's spaced out. So we'll see. At this time next week, the series may still not be over. We may only be looking at Game 6 to come, if necessary. So, which I don't know if I'd have to say most likely it will. I think Cleveland maybe wins. Maybe they win Game 5, but we'll see. See how it all plays out. But again, I mean, if LeBron James and the Cleveland Cavaliers could pull this series out, I mean, in his legacy resume, however you want to put it, I mean, it should count as like a championship and a half, or if you look at it, because this Golden State team, whether it be Shaun Livingston, Andre Iguodala, other guys that can contribute on the floor, and just how deep this Golden State team is, I mean, it would be a tremendous accomplishment for the Cleveland Cavaliers. And ultimately, the Golden State Warriors, they win this series, it'd be a tremendous accomplishment for them. The greatest regular season in history, and ultimately winning the championship, following through with that. They couldn't ask for a much, better team in NBA history. So there you have that. We have a little bit of Doug Peterson audio, ladies and gentlemen, as we have some mini camp, I guess, going on amongst other things. I don't know. I'm hearing how Carson Wentz is going to, I guess, attend Sam Bradford's throwing camp. Speaking of Sam Bradford, I'll get to some in a second. But no, we have some Doug Peterson audio. For those who are unaware, Fletcher Cox and Darren Sproles, and I don't know how people will look at it. I mean, to some extent, Darren Sproles possibly being on the trading block, and Fletcher Cox, kind of holding out, wanting a new deal. Was in the last year of his contract, and yada yada. And we'll hear the audio here, but apparently, Doug Peterson is really a player's coach, and I don't know if, because again, these voluntary mini camp practices or whatever, it's one thing that they're voluntary, but at the same time, there's other guys that, regardless of experience, will be present. And it's just one of those things where, I don't know, should Doug Peterson maybe be a little more stern towards, maybe less lenient? I don't know. Let's hear what he has to say about, Fletcher Cox and Darren Sproles kind of returning to action, albeit voluntary action.
Sort of indicated that Sproles and Cox would be at a similar level of activity, but they weren't. Cox didn't do any of the team stuff. Is that because of his contract situation?
Not at all. And, I've had a conversation with Jim Schwartz, and again, it's all part of, Fletcher getting in here and learning our system, and being a part of the walkthroughs in the morning, and the classroom, and the individual and warm-up periods in practice, and just wanted to make sure that he's in the right frame of mind and the right situation before you stick him out there. So again, as I mentioned yesterday, now's not the time to try to push things and possibly risk an injury. Darren's a little different animal, and he had an opportunity to get a couple reps yesterday, and he's also a special teams guy, so you saw him catch some punts yesterday, and now you'll see him again in a similar role.
How far behind is Fletcher Cox because he's missed the voluntary camp?
Well, he's missed all the installation, so however far back that is, goes back to April 4th. But, Listen, I'm not concerned with Fletcher Cox. He can play the game of football, and it's not going to take. He's a sharp guy, and it's not going to take much or long for him to get caught up.
Darren Sproles seemed to take at least some, and maybe even a majority of the first team reps yesterday. What was the decision behind that and moving him immediately ahead of Ryan Matthews?
It wasn't necessarily moving him ahead of Ryan. It was the fact that I made the decision. I just wanted to see him, and I spoke with Deuce Staley and said, Deuce, if we can find a spot to give him an opportunity where he's not necessarily in traffic, let's see what he can do. And so it was my decision to put him in those situations. But it was not a depth chart issue or anything like that.
I mean, three absences we've seen from players: Sam Bradford, Fletcher Cox, and Darren Sproles. When they've come back, you haven't felt necessary to really talk about why they weren't.
All right, so that's pretty much that in a nutshell for now. And I don't know. It sounded like Doug Peterson dropped an Andy Reidism, if I could use that, on about Fletcher Cox, and said he was a
just sharp guy.
Yeah, sounded very familiar as to when Chip Kelly brought Ed Manowitz in as his personnel guy last offseason, and Andy Reid had that to say about that move. But anyhow, so I don't know. He doesn't, like, obviously. I mean, it's voluntary work, but at the end of the day, I mean, I don't know. I mean, is Doug Peterson too much of a player's coach? I don't know. It kind of begs the question a little bit. I don't know. At the end of the day, this might all be water under the bridge that these guys weren't around, but you do hope that Fletcher Cox is going to be a cornerstone here in this defense. Obviously, he's your best player. Darren Sproles, I mean, I don't really know how much Darren Sproles has left. I mean, we'll see. I mean, he can still be effective on special teams, but again, as far as running backs are concerned, I mean, on this team, I don't know. I'm thinking towards the future as to what they're gonna do. Ryan Matthews, I don't know if he can be a feature back, and stay healthy. So I don't know. It remains to be seen there. But also, I don't know who, and I think around this time of the year, usually, is when Jason LaCanfora, I believe, comes out with his tiers of NFL quarterbacks and where all 32 starters fit in. Now, for the most part, I mean, there may be a starter here or there that may not end up starting the regular season week 1, whether it be they get injured in preseason or training camp, or they get beat out by somebody else, or whatever. Insert reason X, Y, or Z. But this is where Jason LaCanfora of CBS Sports, for those who don't, kind of breaks the quarterbacks down into tiers. Tier 1, tier 2, and yada yada. Not those kind of tiers. No. TIER. And tier 1, bona fide franchise quarterbacks. For instance, this is where you have Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, Ben Roethlisberger, Russell Wilson, and Cam Newton. Those 5 in tier 1. Obviously not, Sam Bradford's not going to fit in here anyway, in this tier. This is, the cream of the crop right here. Obviously, as I just mentioned. So where will Sam Bradford fit, though? What tier will he be in? Let's go down the list here a little bit. Tier 2, top pros, comma, proven winners. You got Drew Brees, Tony Romo, who maybe he's a top pro, proven winner. He's won 2 playoff games in his entire career, I guess. I don't know. But not to mention he's got to stay healthy. But tier 2 for him. Joe Flacco, former Super Bowl winner, obviously coming off of a down season. Eli Manning, of course. And Phillip Rivers, who is also in this tier, who time's ticking for him, though, in San Diego, really. It's been a long time since he's won anything. And Carson Palmer, rightfully so in that tier. Coming off of a impressive season with the Arizona Cardinals. And that wraps up tier 2. You go to tier 3, the Rising Stars. Marcus Mariota. And likewise, Jameis Winston. Both in that tier. Andrew Luck. Now, this is where, there's a little bit of controversy, maybe. I mean, he was banged up last year. Colts had a down season. I got that. I'd probably, if I was gonna rank quarterbacks, I mean, this would basically essentially put him outside of the top 10. But when he gets back on the right track, he'll be closer to that elite of the elites class again, I would think. So that's where he is for now. But you get the point. Also in tier 3, Derek Carr. Some people, again, getting a little high on the Raiders this coming season, as they did show some promise and some strides in the right direction last season with Derek Carr at the helm. So I can understand that. Okay, here we go. Tier 4. The guys that can be winning quarterbacks. Here we go. Andy Dalton, who kind of essentially is a winning quarterback, just not in the playoffs when it comes to winning.
Playoffs?
Yeah. Blake Bortles, Jacksonville Jaguars quarterback. Yeah, again, we'll see if the Jaguars, see where they head this season. I don't know. Then there's Kirk Cousins. He shouldn't be any higher. I have a feeling he'll be brought down a little bit to earth this year. Just like he kind of was in that playoff. Just like when the Redskins finally faced a winning team again in the playoffs, or like whenever they faced a winning team last season, they didn't win. Matt Ryan, who once upon a time you could maybe say, was in that tier 2. But in recent years he hasn't fared well, obviously. So he's down in tier 4 right now, according to the Jason Locken 4 list. Down also with Matthew Stafford and Teddy Bridgewater. I don't know. I mean, the Vikings, they had a good season last year. Bridgewater, I would think I don't know. I think you could put Bridgewater in the 3rd tier, maybe. But Locken 4 has him at tier 4 for now. Who knows? Maybe next year he'll be in a higher tier. We'll see. Okay, here we go. Tier 5. Still no Sam Bradford. We've gone through how many quarterbacks. Tier 5. Guys, veterans, and placeholders. Alex Smith, Ryan Fitzpatrick, Jay Cutler. And tier 6, ladies and gentlemen, is entitled Good Luck with These Guys. Tyrod Taylor, Robert Griffin III, Brock Osweiler, Ryan Tannehill, Blaine Gabbert, and yes, Sam Bradford. Now, I don't know. I don't know if it's a bit of a shot at Sam Bradford. I mean, you have, Fitzpatrick in that tier 5. I don't know about that. But, and you have Kirk Cousins in tier 4. I mean, come on. I don't know. I think that's maybe a little harsh, but have him with RG3 with the Cleveland Browns, Brock Osweiler, and it's not necessarily proven Tyrod Taylor and Blaine Gabbert. And then there is a tier 7 who the verdict is out. Projected rookie starters Paxton Lynch of the Broncos and Jared Goff of the Rams. Now, of course, both those quarterbacks facing, I guess, in their respective quarterback battles, two recent former Eagles quarterbacks here in the Chip Kelly era.
How's everyone doing?
Yeah, including one of them, including Nick Foles with the Rams, and Paxton Lynch, Mark Sanchez at the Broncos. I don't know. Again, I mentioned before, though, if the Eagles would just find a way to trade him, maybe, the Broncos, at the end of the day, they got Paxton Lynch, the rookie, and then Mark Sanchez as their starting quarterback. I don't know. Oh, I'm yawning here. Right in the middle of the Tyler Werner Show. My bad. But anyhow. So that's just a little fun tidbit. As we're in the month of June now. Training camp starts up next month. But Sam Bradford is one of those good luck with these guys. But at the end of the day, it is what it is. He's got this year to prove himself, I guess, with the Eagles, whatever, and basically prove himself to maybe play somewhere next year, I guess, at the end of the day. As he is essentially, at the end of the day, the quarterback this season. So that's pretty much going to wrap things up for now on this edition of the Tyler Werner Show. Thanks for tuning in as always. We'll be back next week to talk more NBA Finals as things proceed with that series. And obviously, again, NHL playoffs I think will be wrapped up Game 5. I could be wrong, but I don't see San Jose pulling out anything here. So I say Sidney Crosby gets his second cup with the Pittsburgh Penguins. And that's pretty much a wrap on that. As we continue through with Phillies baseball as well, and whatever else may find its way into the Philadelphia sports scene. We'll discuss it right here in the Tyler Werner Show, as always. Thanks for tuning in as always. We'll talk to you next week on the Tyler Werner Show.
What is it about good sex that makes me have to crap? Guess it's all that pumping. Pump and dump.
Pump and dump. Never stop the pumping. Always keep her satisfied. Pump and dump.
You really jarred something loose, Tiger.
#1 box office attraction, #1 WWE superstar, multi-time WWE champion, Brock Lesnar.
Time to revamp your office space, eh? Looking for an interior decorator? Look no further than Brock Lesnar.
Now that's the way a real man uses a sledgehammer.
Out with the old, in with the new. Give Brock Lesnar and Paul Heyman a call.
Mr. Lesnar, you're the future of interior decorator.
I think we're done.
Attention parents. Is your under 18-year-old daughter being cyberstalked by a man who identifies themselves as a grown adult male?
I want to meet you and fool around. Are you up to meeting tonight, hon? I think I would like to shower with you. We can do it in the shower, too.
If so, you need to contact Chris Hansen Company to bust these online cyberstalkers.
How are you tonight? Why don't you have a seat there and get comfortable for that? I guess you're going to tell me next that this is the very first time you've done something like this.
Chris Hansen and the Dateline crew will take care of it. Contact us, and we will put an end to the cyber stalking that your daughter is experiencing.
Well, there's something you got to know. I am Chris Hansen with Dateline NBC, and we're doing a story on computer predators.
Busted!